tell the difference.
Exactly. Yeah, you
This
can't.
is a huge threat, I think, especially with all the elections that are coming up. You can't trust what you're seeing anymore.
So finally, coming back to the previous question, the point is how we can train people to detect or to defend themselves from this problem. So training and tools as well, but there is no one solution to end misinformation, and basically because historically it's there and it's gonna be there, no? But nowadays the problem that we have is the ability to reach millions of people and entities and everybody is infected somehow, no? Of the potential content. No?
I think building on this concept is also very interesting to think about decentralization, because when you're talking about growth and the influences, I again think that it's again a centralized world. No? So there's a huge node that has a huge power to influence everything. And I remember that these last years, all this blockchain eruption, no? With all these decentralization protocols and these things, and also the Wikipedia is a little bit decentralized in the way that there are many contributors. This brings me again to that really beautiful paradigm of this Web 3.3, Web 3, not Web 3, but Web 3, where you have, and coming from even the original paper from Satoshi Nakamoto, no, about blockchain and how to build out this protocol, that a decentralized way of building the truth could also be interesting, no? And being validated by people.
Yeah, this is true, the governance and the blockchain and how it's done. But there are issues also around the governance, but definitely decentralized platforms would be they're more democratic in one way. The centralization of platforms, as you know, it leads on to propaganda. It's another issue.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and exactly, no. The point of the centralization is that you have a federated set of people, entities providing information or providing certification, and it's more difficult to infect every point. No, when you have something centralized, the point is that you have only one unit controlling what is true or what is not. That was the problem that had Twitter before Elon Musk. No, now is supposed to be more open to, but I think that it's more open in terms of what you can say. You are not filtered, because at least the people before was saying that Twitter was filtering and a lot of information, and now it's like more open to put your opinions and your messages. No? So if you have something that is federated, is decentralized, of course, I think that can help to verify information in different sources, to verify who is providing or generating, to trace back the origin of the information. And that would be much better, no? And that's essentially the philosophy of internet, no? Yeah. Building a community that is decentralized, no? And with content.
I have the feeling that we always have some decentralization, decentralization, because at the beginning, once upon a time, there was the web, no? And then suddenly we centralized into Google and the social networks. Then we try to decentralize with blockchain, and then we centralize again with this artificial intelligence, big tycoons, no? So there's always this movement up and forth.
But I think, the platforms, again, the Chinese platforms like DeepSeek, they're all open source.
Well,
so, and also I think they're going to get a lot more traction in the long run.
So maybe we have to think why they are open source. What is the motivation behind? Cybersecurity, getting more information about Europeans or people from the West, I don't know. But it's true that in terms of technology, in this sector of verification activities, it's not easy to select the technology, no? And there we could enter in the discussion on the digital sovereignty in the European Union, that we don't have technology, we don't have big players in the technology landscape. No, what we have, SAP.
Yeah.
We
So
don't have.
is this tending towards a more dystopian view of information then? Maybe the government or a single entity says, this is how we're going to do it. And it could become quite dystopian if we allow it. And that's another danger as well with information. You know, they often speak about the Ministry of Truth,
No,
you know?
I mean, exactly. But from my perception, what we have to do is, again, equip people with right knowledge and tools to defend themselves. I mean, the Ministry of Truth could work in, I don't know, in a small community, very controlled, but if you are in a country like here in Spain with 49 million of people, or if we take the European Union as a whole, or the United States, you cannot have a Ministry of Truth. And very likely it's going to be a sin for people like the Ministry of No Truth at all. No, it's like, this is what is true, and I'm pretty sure that you are not going to trust on that, no? Because it's like, they, in that case, the knowledge and information cannot flow in a top-down approach, because you will not trust on that. It's more peer-to-peer, no? It's how you trust each other, no? We are talking here, I trust on his words and on his opinion. I can, of course, discuss. I not fully agree on that, but we can trust each other, no? Because it's a discussion between peers, no?
Yeah. But trust is a big part of that sort of layer of, you know, even with AI, isn't it, to manage all the information.
What is easy to verify, for instance, and to have centralized is a set of facts, numbers. That's something that we cannot interpret. I mean, we have 3% of GDP growth is 3% of GDP growth. No? Then, of course, you can have an economist that takes that value with this other value and this other value and creates another interpretation. But if you have what is data and facts, that's something that, of course, can be centralized and can be used for these verification activities. No? But the interpretation of the things is the part that we can fight, no? And how they are explained and how they are presented to the people, no? With the different types of contents. The facts, yeah, I think that is something that can be centralized. Finally, it's a kind of database.
Yeah, but this is what they say, data doesn't lie. Obviously, misinformation does, so it's just how to circumvent everything with kind of concrete facts, because people are always going to have their bias baked into things as well. So it's another issue around misinformation. So it's like, how do we give the truth? We need to have the data to back it up.
At least to have the data available to include that in a kind of report or argumentation, no? But of course it's true that sometimes this doesn't matter. People have, let's say, a feeling, and you can say that the economy is growing 3% of the GDP each year, but that's sadly how you see the economy, no? For instance. And the same can happen with many aspects, but at least if you have the data, and that's why there are a lot of discussions in social networks, and online social networks, about the interpretation of that data. And we can enter in crimes, in immigration, on the view of the European Union. We can enter in a lot of topics where we have like two types of people participate in those which opinions are only based on data, and those which opinions are only based on feelings or opinions, no? And they are, I think, two worlds that work in a different manner, no? Basically, then we have to think that the online social networks don't represent the reality. That's the first thing. And then the point is that the people must have the tools and the knowledge to interpret the data adequately. I think that's the point, because if you just follow what a person is explaining and how they explain it, I mean, you cannot create your own opinion. No, you have to listen several sources and then, okay, yeah, I agree and I understand this value, this fact, and in my view is the interpretation, the right interpretation is that thing, and it's shared with these people, but not shared with these people that I am also follower or supporter of them. And then with this type of discussion is when you build your opinion, and then you can distinguish whether or not the interpretation that was initially thrown is true or not. No?
Juan, do you see how AI is going to play a key role in this in the future of politics?
Yeah, I think all of this is based on what is bringing us back to the quality of the data. So as we said, the quality of the data is essential for this, to make all these data-driven opinions and all these data criteria. So I think this also was talking in another episode on how this importance of the data is really going to be fundamental to train the algorithms in AI properly and make some really good algorithms, not synthetic data, but real data we can measure. And on the other hand, how if we create an European ecosystem of data, for example, that could also propel or could boost many of our current technologies.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Finally, this was one of the intentions or the last goals of Tim Berners-Lee. No?
Yeah, I think so.
Creating,
solid.
That you were the owner of the data that you are publishing or you are producing, and the sites must request permission to you to use the data. But that's something that today in practice, in theory, I think it perfectly works, but in practice, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, but this is what
it's like creating a parallel web.
This is what Yogi Berra said. In theory, everything is possible, but in practice,
but the philosophy behind that concept, I think, is completely correct, and it's something that is created and designed and by Tim Berners-Lee. I mean, he has something to say about the web.
Absolutely.
No? He's the creator, basically. But it still doesn't matter. I mean, unless Google and the big players wants to make that, we are just slaves.
Yeah, but slaves to the corporates and their misinformation, unfortunately, at this moment. Thank you both very much.